A very good morning, everyone. Today we will start exchange of gases. So the primary important topic where from the alveoli into the blood and from the blood into the alveoli, the required gases has to move. So what determines this gas uptake in the alveoli? The most important thing, the diffusion properties of your respiratory membrane. We can call this as respiratory membrane. Similar like your filtration barrier in kidneys. Okay, there are layers in the respiratory membrane, and the diffusion properties of respiratory membrane is also very important. As like every other membrane in your body, this is also semi-permeable. That we will see what are the various layers and what are the important properties. Then it depends mainly on the partial pressure differences on either side of the membrane, partial pressure difference of the gas on either side of the membrane, which mainly is important driving force for diffusion. You can say, sir, gases can diffuse from atmosphere directly into the blood, but why it is not happening? Either via skin also they can diffuse. No, it will not happen. The range of diffusion, the distance at which diffusion occurs is less than in millimeters to centimeter. Okay, it won't be hardly more than a 5 millimeter distance. Within that range only diffusion will occur. So like bacteria which is completely surrounded by atmospheric air, only near the bacterial membrane within less than a millimeter difference distance, only over the millimeter distance the diffusion occurs. So that's why the membranes where diffusion takes place, if you see, if you observe, they will be from hardly micrometers to a less than millimeter thickness. So that's why we have all this separate special mechanism, the ventilatory mechanism, which is bringing the atmospheric air almost in near contact to your pulmonary vasculature. Almost it is getting the entire atmospheric air for gases exchange near the pulmonary capillaries, where near the respiratory membrane, also known as alveolar capillary membrane, there is exchange of gases. And this is also determined by the pulmonary blood flow. If there is no pulmonary capillary blood flow, there is no exchange of gases. So what are the various layers of this alveolar capillary membrane? So this is an important membrane where the exchange of gases occurs, where the blood is in contact with the alveolar air through a membrane. Okay, when we talk about 10 layers. Mainly there are 5 layers, because we talk up to hemoglobin. So from the alveoli till hemoglobin there are 10 layers. First thing is alveolar surfactant in the alveolar liquid. Actually you should say alveolar fluid, lining fluid with surfactant laden alveolar fluid, right? Alveolar lined by fluid. Then the squamous epithelium of the alveoli, composed of two types of cells, type 1 and type 2 epithelial cells. Type 1 covering the 95% of the surface area, type 2 only 5%. But the ratio of cells is 1 is to 1, 50 is to 50 according to number, but the surface area 95 is to 5. The function of type 2 alveolar epithelial cells is secretion of surfactant. Type 1 alveolar epithelial cells or pneumocytes, their main function is exchange of gases. They majorly form the alveolar epithelium. They say if you spread the entire alveolar epithelium, it will be a size of football court. All alveoli if you spread, it will be size of a football court. So that is the vast surface area of alveoli, which are globular structures, hemispherical structures, only opening to one end via alveolar ducts. So below this alveolar epithelial cells rests on their own basement membrane. Then after basement membrane, there is your pulmonary interstitium. This pulmonary interstitium we also call as lung parenchyma. It contains your major collagen, uh, elastin fibers, and mainly the interstitial connective tissue with some fluid in it, interstitial fluid in it. Then comes your capillary basement membrane for the capillary endothelium. Then layer of capillary endothelial cells. These are also again squamous cells. Uh, then plasma, blood plasma. Then RBC membrane. Then RBC fluid, intracellular fluid in RBC, and hemoglobin. So the final destination when we talk about transport of oxygen, mainly the exchange of oxygen, oxygen has to cross the surfactant alveolar fluid, alveolar epithelial cells, basement membrane, pulmonary interstitium, capillary endothelial basement membrane, capillary endothelial cells, plasma of the blood, RBC membrane, plasma intracellular fluid in RBC, and hemoglobin molecule. It has to go and bind to hemoglobin molecule. So the thickness of alveolar capillary membrane is 0.2 to 0.5 micron. So the diffusion of gases into to and fro at the respiratory membrane has to occur over very small distance. It will occur only in small distances. So again pictorially we can see. So this is the alveoli containing atmospheric air. So what has to happen from the air? Oxygen has to enter the capillary, pulmonary capillary, and from the pulmonary capillary the CO2 waste product produced in our metabolism has to enter the alveolar air. From alveolar air, again this air will go into the atmosphere for every 1 tidal volume, right? Then if oxygen has to cross, what are the layers it is crossing? This is the alveolar fluid fully laden with surfactant. Surfactant molecules increase especially during the inspiration. When this is expanding, more and surfactant molecules will enter the alveolar fluid, reducing the surface tension. Opposite happens in the expiration. Similarly, when it is coming down, surfactant molecules, always remember, they lie in the air water interface in accordance with the expansion and relaxation of the alveoli, reducing the surface tension, thereby increasing the compliance of lung and preventing the lung alveolar collapse. Okay, apart from that, so oxygen has to cross the surfactant, then alveolar epithelial cells, type 1 pneumocytes, then basement membrane, pulmonary interstitium, mainly containing the interstitial tissue and interstitial fluid, mainly collagen, elastin fibers, other cells. Then capillary basement membrane, this is the pulmonary capillary, capillary basement membrane. Then capillary endothelial cells, then the plasma of blood, RBC membrane, and intracellular fluid. Intracellular fluid, into the intracellular fluid, it has to go near the hemoglobin. So carbon dioxide also has to cross vice versa. So first we'll see these basic laws. So at constant temperature and pressure, equal volumes of different gas has equal number of molecules. That means the volume of a gas at constant temperature pressure depends only on number of molecules instead, or else number of mole. That means 1 mole is 6 into 10 power 23 molecules, right? So at constant temperature pressure, 1 mole of nitrogen or 1 mole of oxygen or 1 mole of carbon dioxide occupies equal volume. Equal volume. It does not depend on the size of the gas or anything. Okay, it depends mainly on the number of molecules or number of moles. 1 mole is constant, 6 into 10 power 23 molecules. Okay, so 1 mole of each gas, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, all these things occupy equal volumes. So what Graham's law states, the rate of diffusion of gas is inversely proportional to the molecular weight. This we all know, right? Heavier objects have high potential energy. Okay, so they require more energy to move. Similarly, higher the molecular weight of the gas, more energy is required for its diffusion. Or else you can say, if the gas is heavier, the rate of diffusion is less. Right? This we all know. The heavier gas will move slowly. Lighter gas will diffuse very fast. Then Dalton's law, what it states? In a mixture of gases, the partial pressure exerted by the individual gas, like let's say in a mixture of gases, we take atmospheric pressure of 760 mm. In that, according to the percentages, these gases exert the same equal partial pressures Means according to their percentage, they exert partial pressure. So at 760 mm is the atmospheric pressure in a mixture of gas. If it is a single gas, right, there is a pure oxygen in a cylinder or in a uh, room at atmospheric pressure. If it is pure oxygen, it occupies again 760 millimeters of mercury pressure. But when you keep mixture of gases, according to their concentration, they exert the partial pressure. So out of this 760 mm, oxygen is 21%. So it exerts accordingly 21% of this 760 mm. This is how they exert. So carbon dioxide is 0.04%. It exerts accordingly. Nitrogen 78%. So it will be around 159 millimeters of mercury. So the at atmospheric pressure, because in the dry air the oxygen is 159, 20.98%, the percentage of gas in the mixture, it exerts a partial pressure of 159. So if you calculate all these gases individual partial pressure, that will be directly equal to the atmospheric pressure. So Henry's law, it denotes the, here comes the gas in liquid. Till now we spoke about gas outside in the environment, not in liquids. But Henry's law states that simple definition is, the more the partial pressure of the given gas, more will be the concentration of the gas in that given liquid. So if you increase the partial pressure of a gas, the solubility of the gas in the liquid increases and more concentration of the gas will be present in that liquid. It not only depends on the partial pressure, it also depends on the solubility or absorption coefficient. Some gases are having high absorption coefficient, some gases are having low absorption coefficient. And one more thing you should remember, if you remember from your general physiology, uh, oxygen carbon dioxide can easily diffuse through the lipid membranes. They are highly lipid soluble. Okay, compared to water, they are also highly lipid soluble. So easily they can diffuse across the lipid membrane. So the fat content of a membrane can never affect oxygen and carbon dioxide. So that is also important. So oxygen and carbon dioxide, easily they will diffuse across lipids, across membranes, across water. Okay, and if the absorption coefficient is more for a gas, okay, in case of carbon dioxide it is higher, it is 0.48 compared to oxygen which is 0.2. More will be the concentration of the gases. This we will see later on. Remember this point, concentration of a gas in liquid. So the amount of gas that will be dissolved in a liquid depends on two things. One is the partial pressure exerted by that gas and the solubility or absorption coefficient. So our important law, Fick's law of diffusion. In many places you will see this Fick's law. The rate of diffusion of a Fick's law is applicable only when two solutions or two compartments are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, if there is no membrane, we don't talk about Fick's law. We talk about Fick's law only when two solutions or two compartments are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. So the rate of diffusion of a substance, concentration substance, or else the rate of diffusion of a gas is directly proportional to the surface area of that available semi-permeable membrane. So when we are talking about respiratory membrane, more is the surface area of the respiratory membrane, more will be the diffusion of the gas. This is simple common sense. More is the membrane available which is separating two compartments, more will be the diffusion of the gas. It is depending on the differences of partial pressure on either side of the membrane. For solutes, we call it as concentration differences. For gases, we call it as partial pressure differences. More is the partial pressure difference, more will be the energy to move those gases. So we already know the diffusion occurs always from higher concentration area to lower concentration area, or higher partial pressures to lower partial pressure. It is inversely proportional to the thickness. If the thickness increases, the distance for which diffusion has to occur increases. If the distance increases, then the rate of diffusion decreases, right? Common sense. If the distance is less, gases will easily diffuse across the membrane. If the distance increases, that means thickness increases, the rate of diffusion decreases. It also depends on the diffusion coefficient. Okay, diffusion coefficient. We call it as diffusion coefficient. Okay, or else it is, you can simply substitute. It depends on the solubility and inversely proportional to the molecular weight. Okay, if the molecular weight is more, rate of diffusion will be less. If the solubility of gas is more, rate of diffusion will be more. Okay, solubility is more, rate of diffusion is more, molecular weight is more, rate of diffusion is less. So depending on these various laws, now we will see, it will be easy to understand. So factors affecting the diffusion of gases at respiratory membrane. It depends mainly on the difference in partial pressures. This is the first important factor. Okay, the more the difference in partial pressures, more will be the rate of diffusion. And diffusion capacity of the membrane. Diffusion capacity of the membrane depends on this, the solubility and square root of the molecular weight. This also we will see how to calculate diffusion capacity. Surface area, more the surface area, more will be the rate of diffusion. Solubility of the gas, again, CO2 being highly soluble, it diffuses easily. So in any diseases, if the respiratory membrane thickness increases or it becomes fibrosed, its permeability decreases. Any diseases involving the respiratory membrane, so the least affected gas is carbon dioxide, because it is highly soluble. It is easily diffusing. It easily diffuses through lipid membranes, easily diffuses through liquid also. So it depends on the solubility of gas. So the gas affected will be more affected will be oxygen compared to carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide has high solubility, thereby high diffusion capacity and higher rates of diffusion. Thickness of the membrane, this is very, very important. So if the thickness increases, rate of diffusion decreases. So alveolar capillary membrane normal thickness is 0.2 to 0.5. The condition mainly in which this thickness increases is pulmonary edema. In pulmonary edema, when there is fluid in the interstitium, pulmonary interstitium, this increases the alveolar capillary membrane thickness. And also in pulmonary fibrosis, various conditions we will see later on. Molecular weight, simple. Heavier the gas, lower will be the rate of diffusion. So thickening of the alveolar capillary membrane, like conditions like diffuse interstitial fibrosis, that means increase in collagen content, especially in the pulmonary parenchyma, most commonly chronic smokers, or else people who is working on coal mines, asbestosis. All these conditions, there will be thickening of the alveolar capillary membrane. And when the distance increases, if the interstitial space increases, especially in the pulmonary edema, there are various causes of this pulmonary edema, primary cause being the left ventricular failure, that we will see later on. There is another topic, pulmonary edema, you should understand, that we will discuss in detail. Then carbon dioxide has high solubility compared to the oxygen, 20 times its solubility is more. So when the thickness increases in these conditions, the carbon dioxide diffusion impact will be less. Okay, it will be diffused easily, but there will be development of hypoxemia. That means oxygen transport will be impaired. So the partial pressure gradients, which is the primary factor that denotes the diffusion across alveolar capillary membrane. So later on we will see in the next class in detail that alveolar air, it is coming at 760 mmHg partial pressure, atmospheric pressure. In that, because oxygen is 21%, let's say if it is 160 mm, let me stop here 1 minute. Okay, this is the mistake they have given. Okay, actually the partial pressure of oxygen in the air reaching alveoli will be 106 millimeters of mercury, let's say 100 millimeters of mercury. Okay, not 160. Okay, the partial pressure of oxygen in air before reaching alveoli is 160, but once it reaches alveoli, it will become 100. How this happens, we will discuss later. And The partial pressure of oxygen in the pulmonary arterial blood reaching pulmonary capillaries. It is mainly venous blood, right? Pulmonary artery is the only artery in our body which carries venous blood from the right ventricle. The oxygen tension in the pulmonary arterial blood is 40 millimeters of mercury, same like your systemic veins. So what is the partial pressure difference of oxygen here? It is 100 minus 40, that is around 60 millimeters. This is the driving force for exchange of oxygen from the alveolar air into the pulmonary capillary blood. What about carbon dioxide? The partial pressure of carbon dioxide in pulmonary arterial blood is 46 millimeters of mercury, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in alveolar air is 40 millimeters of mercury. So there is a gradient of 6 millimeters. So partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more in pulmonary capillaries compared to the alveolar air. So the diffusion of carbon dioxide occurs from the pulmonary capillary into the alveoli. But you can say, sir, here oxygen is having 60 mm difference, but whereas carbon dioxide is having only 6 mm partial pressure difference. But the carbon dioxide is having more diffusion coefficient. It is 20 times more soluble. So even if oxygen is having 60 mm difference, carbon dioxide is having only 6 mm difference, the amount of carbon dioxide will be leaving with ease will be more compared to the oxygen because it has 20 times higher diffusion capacity. So these are the various partial pressure of gases. This is the inspired air partial pressure gas. You can see in the inspired air, this we will discuss in detail in the next class. Just observe the oxygen carbon dioxide levels in the inspired air. It is 160.3 according to the partial pressures and the concentration of gases in the 760 mm. They share these values. But in alveolar air, oxygen is only 100, carbon dioxide is 40. Water vapor pressure is 47. This you already know. In atmospheric dry air, there is no much water vapor. But when your air enters the body, the water vapor is added. Humidification occurs in your upper respiratory tract. This imparts 47 mm Hg of water vapor pressure. Accordingly, other gases pressure also adjusts. There is another thing in between this inspired air and alveolar air also. But you see, by the time air reaches alveoli, okay, for now in this class, you remember that alveolar air oxygen partial pressure is 100 and carbon dioxide is 42. So the venous blood which is entering the pulmonary capillaries from pulmonary artery. From where pulmonary artery is coming? Right ventricle. From where blood into right ventricle comes from? From the right atrium. From where blood comes into right atrium? From the venous veins, systemic veins, okay, superior and inferior vena cava, which is getting blood from the tissues. So the blood coming from the tissues will be high in carbon dioxide and low in oxygen. So what will be the partial pressure of oxygen in venous blood? 40, because tissues used up this arterial oxygen and tissues produced carbon dioxide. So the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood leaving tissues will be 46 and oxygen will be 40. So this venous blood will go to the alveoli, near the alveoli in pulmonary capillaries. So between these partial pressures, the gases exchange occurs. Gases exchange occurs till the blood leaving pulmonary capillaries, means the blood entering the pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins are the only veins in our body which carry oxygenated blood. So they are similar to your systemic arteries. So there is a matching diffusion between the gases here. Gases diffusion occurs till the arterial blood is again 100 mm. It will match with 100 of alveolar air, but the reduction of 5 mm is because of shunting and other things that also we will discuss in another class. And carbon dioxide from the pulmonary capillary enters the alveoli, again it returned back to 40. So arterial blood, especially the systemic arterial blood, the blood in the aorta is having 95 mm oxygen partial pressure, 40 mm carbon dioxide. It goes to the systemic circulation, again tissues uses up, making the partial pressures 40 and 46. This goes to alveoli, again diffusion of gases. This will be the reason for gaseous exchange. That in detail we will discuss in the next class. Diffusion coefficient. So this we already saw in the formula. It is directly proportional to the solubility and inversely proportional to the square root of molecular weight. That means heavier the gas, lower will be the diffusion coefficient, and more the solubility, higher will be the diffusion coefficient. So out of two gases which we are discussing, mainly we discuss about oxygen and carbon dioxide because they are only important gases. Carbon dioxide is having 20 times higher diffusion coefficient than the oxygen. Capillary blood flow, it also depends on the capillary blood flow. If the capillary blood flow to the alveoli is adequate, then exchange of gases occurs properly. So how much time a capillary blood flow occurs through the pulmonary circulation? It equals to your single cardiac output, right? When heart is contracting, left ventricle pumps the blood throughout the circulation. What is the cardiac cycle duration? 0.75 to 0.8 seconds. Similarly, right ventricle pumps the entire blood to only lungs. Left ventricle pumps entire blood to the entire body. So right ventricle to only lungs. Cardiac cycle is same. Same cardiac output time. Same stroke volume. Same output of cardiac output. That means 5 liters is going to the systemic circulation via left ventricle and 5 liters is going to lungs alone from the right ventricle. I am saying lungs alone is taking as much as equal volume as your entire body. This has a significance in another class. So 0.75 second is how much time the blood stays in your lung from right ventricle till it reaches left atrium. 0.75 second it stays. So this we call it as transit time. Whatever diffusion and exchange of gases occurs will occur in this 0.75 second. So there are three types of limits in this. Nitrous oxide is an anesthetic gas. It has very high diffusion capacity. It easily diffuses the respiratory membrane. Within 0.1 second, it will cross the respiratory membrane and go. So it is known as the uptake of nitrous oxide is flow limited. That means if the transit time decreases, sometimes heart rate increases. When heart rate increases, the cardiac output duration decreases, right? Cardiac output duration decreases. It can decrease from 0.8 second to almost 0.4 second. Here the duration of diastole decreases, right? And heart rate increases, the duration of diastole decreases. Cardiac output, to maintain the higher cardiac output, the cardiac cycle duration decreases. So if the flow increases, let's say if the flow of blood through the lung increases, more and more nitrous oxide will enter because its diffusion time is very less, 0.1 second. So it depends on the flow of blood. More will be the flow, higher the rate of flow of blood, pulmonary blood, more nitrous oxide will enter the pulmonary capillary. So it is flow limited. Carbon monoxide also readily diffuses. Okay, here what we are talking is within 0.1 second, nitrous oxide will enter the blood, and at that partial pressure it will be dissolved. Okay, so we are talking this 0.1 second, the partial pressure of nitrous oxide in the pulmonary capillary blood will be equal to the partial pressure of nitrous oxide in alveoli. So there won't be further diffusion because the partial pressures will be equal. So partial pressures has to be equal means the gas has to dissolve in the blood. Okay, try to understand. When nitrous oxide is going from the alveoli into the pulmonary capillary blood, okay, the partial pressure of nitrous oxide of the dissolved nitrous oxide in the pulmonary capillary blood should match with the partial pressure of nitrous oxide in the alveolar air. Till they match, there will be diffusion. How much is the time requirement that partial pressure match? 0.1 second. So if the blood flow is very high, rate is very high, and this transit time is 0.1 second, within 0.1 second the partial pressures will be matched. So it depends on the rate of flow. But coming to carbon monoxide, it readily diffuses, it has high diffusion capacity, almost it has 210 times more diffusion capacity and more binding to the hemoglobin compared to oxygen. It readily diffuses. It has highest affinity for hemoglobin. It is 210 times high affinity than the oxygen to hemoglobin. So whatever carbon monoxide is entering the blood will enter RBC, will bind to hemoglobin. So the partial pressure of carbon monoxide in the blood will never increase, because all the carbon monoxide is entering the blood, entering RBC and binding to hemoglobin. It is not getting dissolved, not increasing the partial pressures in the blood. So whatever it might be, it is never reaching the equal partial pressures on both sides within this transit time. So the carbon monoxide transfer is diffusion limited. It is not limited by the blood flow. Whatever might be the blood flow, carbon dioxide is never reaching the same partial pressures in both, because it readily diffuses. Almost all carbon dioxide enters the RBC and binds to the all hemoglobin molecules. So this is diffusion limited. This is not limited by the blood flow. Even though carbon blood stays for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes also, the carbon monoxide partial pressures, they will never reach the equilibrium on both sides. Why I am talking about nitrous oxide and carbon monoxide? One is flow limited, limited by the blood flow, and another one is diffusion limited. But we need important gas for us is oxygen. Oxygen stays in between these both gases. Okay, it is in between these both gases. Its transit time, it reaches equilibrium within 0.3 seconds. So oxygen partial pressures in the blood will be equal to the oxygen partial pressure in the alveoli when exchange of gases is occurring. It occurs within 0.3 seconds. So it has wide safety margin. Transit time is normally 0.75 seconds. Even though cardiac rate increases, okay, duration of cardiac output, the duration decreases. It will never decrease less than 0.45 seconds, right? Systole will never reduce. Systole can never reduce its duration. Whatever reducing its duration is your diastole. So whatever might be, however it might be, the cardiac output duration can never go below 0.3 seconds. So within this 0.3 seconds, because of this wide safety margin, oxygen partial pressure is reached equally on both sides. It will reach equilibrium with alveolar PO2. If normally during severe exercise, because the transit time reduces because of the increase in heart rate, especially untrained people increases their cardiac output in exercise via increasing heart rate, whereas trained individuals, they increases cardiac output by increasing stroke volume. So here during severe exercise, because heart rate increases, the duration of cardiac output decreases up to around 0.3 seconds. So because 0.3 second is still available, oxygen will easily travel from the alveoli into the pulmonary capillaries, and it reaches the required oxygen partial pressure, that is 100 millimeters of mercury. So oxygen uptake is also flow limited. It is more towards the nitrous oxide. But remember, oxygen entering the blood also goes and binds to the hemoglobin, same like your carbon monoxide. But because it, what happens actually is, from the alveoli, oxygen enters the blood capillary. In that, it enters the hemoglobin. It will bind to the hemoglobin. It will saturate hemoglobin, because it is only 0.3 second, and more, another amount of oxygen is also dissolved in the plasma. So oxygen is carried in blood in two forms. One is bound form to hemoglobin, and another form is dissolved form. So this is in between nitrous oxide and carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is traveled only in the bound form, because it is diffusion limited. It can never reach equilibrium. There is no dissolved form of carbon monoxide in our blood. Nitrous oxide, on another hand, it does not bind to any proteins. It simply dissolves in your blood plasma within 0.1 second. Oxygen is in between. It dissolves, it binds to hemoglobin. At the same time, it also dissolves according to its partial pressure gradients. According to its partial pressure gradient. So within 0.3 second, that is the lowest duration of cardiac output that occurs during severe exercise. Still time is available for oxygen to travel from alveoli into the RBC, bind to hemoglobin, and It also dissolves in the blood plasma where the alveolar PO2 and partial pressure of oxygen in the capillaries is equilibrated. See this equilibration of gases during diffusion. So whatever we are talking about this partial pressure difference, this does not take into count the hemoglobin saturation that will occur anyhow with the increase in partial pressure. But this we also talk mainly about the dissolved oxygen in the plasma. So oxygen uptake is also flow limited. More is the blood flow, that means less is the transit time, more oxygen can go, even though the transit time of blood in the pulmonary capillary decreases because of this wide safety margin of 0.3 second. More and more oxygen enters. So more is the blood flow, more will be the entry of oxygen from the alveoli into the blood. So this is very important. That's why this oxygen uptake is flow limited. Mainly is important during the exercise. In the exercise, what happens? Your body oxygen demand increases. So if it is not flow limited and if it is diffusion limited, it will never reach the required equilibrium partial pressure. So the oxygen partial pressure in the blood will decrease. Because it is flow limited, it has wide safety margin. Easily it crosses, easily its partial pressure in the oxygen partial pressure in the plasma increases. So the diffusion capacity of the gas, this is a measure mainly the rate at which the gases crosses your alveolar capillary membrane. So the formula to measure it is VCO by it is the flow rate of the gas divided by the partial pressure of the gas in the alveoli. So for carbon monoxide, because it has the highest diffusion capacity, we mainly denote via the carbon monoxide. We use it to determine the lung diffusion capacity. It is the flow rate of carbon dioxide divided by the partial pressure of carbon monoxide in the alveoli. There is no partial pressure of carbon monoxide in the blood because all carbon dioxide, it will never dissolve in the blood, it will go and bind to the hemoglobin. Only we discuss about partial pressure of carbon monoxide in the alveoli. Same single breath test which we discussed during dead space measurement, we use the same formula here. So factors that affect diffusion capacity of a gas is diffusion properties of the alveolar capillary membrane, hemoglobin content. More the hemoglobin content, more will be the diffusion capacity, because more flow of carbon monoxide occurs. More and more carbon monoxide will go and enter the hemoglobin and capillary blood volume. More the blood volume, more will be the availability of your hemoglobin and more will be the diffusion of the carbon monoxide. So we denote in the terms of carbon monoxide, but we are mainly bothered about oxygen and carbon dioxide. And remember, because of the solubility or diffusion coefficient of carbon dioxide is more, it readily diffuses compared to your oxygen. So remaining things we discuss in detail in the next class. Everything will be clear, okay, especially the gases partial pressure differences, how it is going, why the alveolar gases partial pressure is less than the actual partial pressure of gases in the atmospheric air. Okay, that concept is very important. Go through your textbook. Thank you.